Hello, my name is Dana Sweetser, and I'm reading from my novel Hope Starts Small. And this morning we're starting Chapter 8, Forming. I'm going to read Chapter 8, Part 1, Brush. Once Frank and the family were in the barn, as soon as he could, Frank began to get to work. He built the greenhouse and began to tend the seedlings as best he could. In the meantime, as is the case after any move, he would periodically need to go to the home improvement store. He would take the kids. When he did, one of their favorite things to do was to look through the garden clearance section to see if there was anything they might be able to rescue. They never saw any blueberries there, but twice they found thornless blackberries, looking dejected on a shelf, and Frank was compelled to buy them and give them a chance. At first, he put them just outside his greenhouse, and over time they recovered and began to flourish. One of the two in particular was having a very good time and began to even produce fruit. When Guidance had visited, he suggested that a particular patch of ground behind the goods shed, which was on the east side of the property, about halfway back, might be a good area for raspberries or blackberries. It had become completely overrun by 4-foot tall, weedy monstrosities that covered the area. And as time went on and Frank's work elsewhere slowly progressed, he felt the urge to get something, anything, into the actual ground. And so he set his sights on that patch and his two little rescue plants. He spent a Saturday morning clearing away all the weeds he could until the little mound of dirt was bare. At one end, a small tree had been growing, and he cut it down to the base and set it to the side. He gave the area a few days and then went back and weeded again, finding more and more offensive company that needed clearing. Eventually, he set up fencing, and then soon after, he planted the blackberries. There was plenty of room for them to grow, and he was excited about the prospect of fruit early the next year. At first, he left all the brush he had torn down like a sort of mulch around the mound, but eventually he moved much of it out and burned it. In the meantime, the same weeds came back, time and time again. Sometimes he would pull them, other times he would mow them. At one point he mulched with grass clippings, but it didn't help. It was as if this pile of dirt had within it an insatiable desire to be annoying. As the summer waned, that little patch of ground rebounded even further, until there were some weeds keeping the blackberries company that were so tall they appeared to really belong. Of course they didn't, not in Frank's eyes, and he would eventually deal with it. But in the meantime, it was a comfort to him to know that the blackberries were still the tallest things there and easy to spot. He was unlikely to mistake them for unwanted company. When he had first planted the blackberries, it brought a sense of relief, like he finally got to exhale after spending so long holding his breath. It felt good to get his hands dirty, to give something a home, to start to put down roots. As the weeks went by, one of the plants in particular continued to bear fruit, and as Frank worked, he would snack on the berries it produced. Jeremiah and Zoe would also come from time to time and try the fruit. There wasn't much, and it wasn't always in great shape, but it was there, and it was theirs, and that made it special regardless of the quality. At a certain point, Frank had an epiphany. He decided to let the fruit fall and be slowly absorbed into the ground. His hope was that it would give them new company next year, a true patch, and that in the sacrifice for now of a small snack, he might benefit from a real feast the next year. This would, of course, require that he not uproot anything important. That would be tricky. But as long as he was careful, it would be worth the investment. It felt good to Frank to have rescued something. The plants had not been in good shape at the store. One had damaged limbs. Both were looking sickly. So it was a joy to Frank to see them thriving, flexing and growing out there in that little patch of dirt. It was a joy to see his kids notice them and celebrate them. In a way, it was one small step towards making something right and good and beautiful that might otherwise have been discarded. It was also a bit of a down payment, the first thing planted in the field. It told Frank that he would accomplish what he set out to do, even if the process took longer than he planned. All right, thanks for listening. Have a great day.